Let's go ahead and get started. I will call to order the meeting for the Area Plan Commission of Tippecanoe County for November 19th, 2025 to order. First on the agenda is the roll call. Eric, please.
Jackson Bogan.
Present.
Tracy Brown.
Present.
Ben Carson.
Here.
Jason Domkowski.
Here.
Brad Halberg.
Present.
Jody Hamilton.
Here.
Larry Leverance.
Present.
Chad Lohmeyer.
Here.
Diana Looper.
Here.
Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Kathy Parker.
Here.
Vicki Pearl.
Present.
Jerry Reynolds.
Present.
Todd Rosworski.
Present.
Gary Schroeder.
Present.
Steve Schul.
Here.
Steve Snyder.
Present.
Quorum present.
Wow, full house tonight. Very good. Briefing session, Ryan.
Well, to begin, I wanted to take the opportunity to welcome Brad Hallberg, our newest member, the Area Plan Commission, representing the City of West Lafayette. As for the cases, at last check, all are ready to be heard except 3007, Z3007. So if there's anyone in the room that's representing that has not checked their paperwork in, please come to the staff table. Other than that, the other cases are ready.
Which one's 3007?
Z3007, Martha E. Trinidad.
Very good, thank you.
That's all.
Very good. Approval of minutes, Jerry.
I move to approve the minutes from October 15th, 2025 public hearing as submitted.
Second.
Is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes? Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New business.
Move to hear and vote on S 4950 Bridge Creek Ridge minor subdivision.
Second.
All right, so we're here in Washington Township. This is a request for a 2-year primary approval extension. The original conditional primary approval was granted on November 18th, 2020 for a 4-lot minor subdivision on this property here. There's the sketch plan. The holdup appears to be getting drainage approval and defining and certifying the floodplain boundary of unnamed tributaries of Buck Creek. Staff does not believe that there have been any changes in zoning restrictions or subdivision regulations since 2020 that would warrant revisions to the original conditional primary approval. So we are recommending approval of this extension contingent on any applicable conditions of the original primary approval. All of the conditions in the staff report are still valid.
Very good, thank you. Petitioner?
Good evening. My name's Bob Gross, R.W. Gross and Associates, 420 Columbia Street. Yes, we're just requesting this extension. Looks like we're able to move forward now. So if you have any questions, I'm available.
Very good, thank you, Bob. Anyone in the audience wish to comment? Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. Jerry?
I move to hear and vote on S 4959 Bluffs of Buck Creek minor subdivision.
Second.
So a very similar request for this one, just a little bit to the north of the last one. Again, it's a minor subdivision, a 4-lot minor on 9.128 acres. See that there, and there is the primary approval. So again, the only thing that appears to be holding it up is getting drainage approval and getting the adjacent rural estate completed. So you can see in the zoning exhibit here that there is a rural estate just next door. The 2 of the 4 minor subdivision lots are going to be using that rural estate road for access. So obviously they can't get platted until that rural estate road is on the books. So again, we don't believe that there have been any changes in zoning restrictions or subdivision regulations since 2020 when it was conditionally approved that would warrant revisions to the original conditional primary approval. So we are recommending approval of this first extension request for this minor subdivision.
Very good, thank you. Petitioner, Bob.
Again, Bob Gross, R.W. Gross and Associates, 420 Columbia Street. Again, we had some floodplain definition that we were trying to figure out, and so now we're ready to proceed.
Very good, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to comment? Questions from the board? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot, please.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval.
Thank you, Ryan. Now we're going to enter our public hearing portion of the meeting, and I have a statement I'd like to read. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedure, the Commission would like for you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make a comment or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petition will be given an opportunity to do so. When we are hearing a request on change in zoning, we are trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each case being heard, our staff will present its report. Then the person representing the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, then those of you who wish to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Plan Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We are a 17-member body and a majority of 17 is 9. Regardless of how many commissioners are actually present, at least 9 votes in favor or 9 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove an action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners, who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record, and we have a sign-in sheet over there on the desk. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. If you need to make a call, please step out of the room. All exhibits presented to the commission become property of the commission. Jared.
I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application to be heard this evening and become part of the evidence of such hearing, Unified Zoning Ordinance, Unified Subdivision Ordinance, and the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application, and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the application to be heard this evening, and response from responses of all checkpoint agencies.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Continuance.
I move to continue S 5308 Nelson Minor Subdivision, minor sketch to December 3rd Executive Committee.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Ordinance amendment, Jerry.
I move to hear and vote on Amendment 122A.
Second.
All right. So this will be a little bit of a state code lesson, and I'll ask Eric to check me if I get anything wrong. This is a unique nuance in state code where a city or a legislative body initiated ordinance amendment that comes to them. They have the authority to amend it and send it back to the APC if they so choose. The City of Lafayette did initiate the gas station amendment. It was their idea. They asked the APC to work with them to look at it. That occurred, and that was the Ordinance 122 that came before this body and moved along. When it got to the city had reasons to choose to amend it. Those reasons are detailed in a written statement that I handed out to you just before the meeting started. And that is a requirement of the state code provision that a written statement be delivered to APC explaining themselves, essentially. And so all the APC has to do in this instance is, basically, once again, scrutinize the amendment for the benefit of the other members of the APC and either vote, recommend approval, denial, or take no recommendation. And if there is no recommendation, it simply moves on to the other localities like any other amendment would. In this instance, Lafayette, in their I think zeal to approve it, they actually did formally approve it at the hearing. And so the action done here, no ordinance will need to be sent to Lafayette. They don't need to reapprove it. But all the other localities within APC's orbit will now get a chance to take a look at this and consider it for themselves. So, did I get anything wrong on that, Eric?
All good.
All good, okay, good. So the amendment is actually pretty simple, and it's kind of detailed in the staff report, kind of the before and after, and then the actual text is also in there, kind of redlined and red marked. It essentially exempts what we would consider kind of accessory gas stations to like a big box retail center from the proximity provisions to either residential uses or or other gas stations. And so Lafayette felt that since there aren't an awful lot of these sorts of situations, that to treat a gas station that is essentially an extension of a retail operation differently from a standalone one would be unfair. And so that's what their amendment tries to fix and does. And so staff agrees with their logic. And so, in short, we recommend approval as is. We had some conversations with the city attorney about maybe in the future making some small edits to some of the language to get at some other issues, mostly just little edits about plan developments and the size of the retail areas and some other things, but that may come a little later. But for now, we just wanted to present this as is and send it forward. So mostly because, as state code says, the commission has 45 days to take action or take no action. So at this point, I'll take any questions if there are any. And once again, if I misrepresent anything, Eric, please let me know.
I wondered if Lafayette had any comments for this, and then we'll maybe get to the questions.
Good evening, Jackie Chosnick, Lafayette City Attorney, 20 North 6th Street. Ryan did a good job summarizing it. At the last minute, when reviewing the ordinance, we did realize that it may have some unintended consequences that would prohibit a big box store type of retail, grocery store, that type of thing, where their gas station was a component of that business, and we wouldn't get one without the other. So we desire to make sure that we clarified that, because that was not our intention, so those facilities can still continue to be built in the city. So happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, we may have some. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Anyone else in the audience wishing to comment on this? Questions or comments from the board?
Gary?
Yes.
Just Ryan, a clarification. It says, provided the gas station is developed concurrently or as part of the same construction phase. Does this only apply to new building? For example, we have a situation where Walmart is already there, wants now, several years later, wants to build a gas station. How does that work?
I'm sorry, I'm just doing a quick scan of this. I don't believe it discriminates between new construction or a redevelopment scenario. Jackie, you might be able to.
I think the wording.
Please help me.
The wording does.
No, the intention would be for new development. The ordinance language does say that the construction has to be concurrently,
Yeah.
so that it cannot be a gas station comes in after the fact. It would be construction of both the primary facility and the gas station at the same time.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm reading it correctly.
So to clarify, in the scenario he painted, this ordinance would not
Yes.
work for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
to clarify the intention, and again, we put the word concurrently in there for that purpose, so there could be no question that if something like a Walmart was already constructed and they wanted to bring a gas station in later, that is not what the intention of this ordinance amendment is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question for you, Ryan, before you walk away.
Yep.
Is there a workaround for any gas station or big box that wants to add a gas station in the future within that limit? Is there some process? Can they change zones? Can they get variances?
This is in Chapter 4, so variances are available to be applied for.
Okay.
So
it'd be
there is relief available.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Very good. I think that's a good amendment. We have a yellow ballot. Thank you.
We have a unanimous ballot recommending approval.
Thank you, Ryan. Jerry?
I move to hear and vote on S 5310 J.D. Barnes minor subdivision, FKA Barnes minor sketch.
Second.
All right, good evening.
John?
For this minor subdivision, we're in Stockwell here. You can see the property outlined in black in the southeastern part of town. As you can see on the aerial now, the property is mostly in row crop production with a small dilapidated house towards the north end of the property that will be taken down. The smaller square you're seeing is Lot 32 in the original plat to Clarks Hill, and this does go a little bit over to the east into part of Lot 33. So these were two lots platted in Stockwell in the late 1800s. The proposal is to take all of 32 and a portion of 33 and create 4 single-family lots here. The lot is big enough to accommodate 4 R1 zone lots over 10,000 square feet. The property has access and frontage on Vine Street, which was improved and platted with the town. However, Academy and Vine or Prospect to the north and Academy to the south were never built. The County Highway Department has asked that a restriction be placed on no vehicular access on both the north and south sides, meaning that each of the 4 lots would have direct access to Vine Street, or there is also a shared driveway easement that runs along the east side of all 4 of these lots and then comes out on the north side towards Vine Street. So they could either have like a rear-loaded type of private alley driveway or direct access. So there's a couple of different options of how homes could fit on these lots. Staff's recommending conditional approval.
Good, thank you, John. Petitioner or the representative?
Yes, Kyle Betts with Chastain Associates at 625 South Earl. We've read through the staff comments, agree with all the conditions. We have no concerns, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Very good, thank you, Kyle. Anyone else in the audience wishing to comment on this? Questions from the board? Hearing none, we have a white ballot for conditional approval. I think it's this one. You want too many pages. Unless mine's not special.
And we have unanimous ballot for approval.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. Jared?
I move to hear and vote on Z 3003 Alta Vita Plan Development, Thomas Developers LLC, Shane O'Malley, R3W to PDMX.
Thank you. So this is a PDMX, Plan Development Mixed Use. So there are both residential units in this PD as well as potential for commercial. This is in West Lafayette, as you can see on the map here. We've got River Road to the east and Salisbury to the west, Wood to the north, and Williams to the south. It's currently zoned R3W. Lots of R3W in the area, but again, the PDs are kind of heading south from State Street in this area of West Lafayette and across the River Road to the east. That large area was recently rezoned to PDMX as well for the district PD. So currently on site are two apartment buildings with 42 units in them. The property is proposed to be included in the West Lafayette Downtown Plan update that's in the works right now. The PD itself is going to incorporate a partially below-grade parking garage with up to 205 spaces. It will have a maximum of 187 units and up to 482 bedrooms. There is the option to provide up to 5,890 square feet of commercial retail on the ground floor level that fronts on River Road. I think I have, yes, that is the commercial option there. That would be along River Road. The rest of that level would encompass some of the parking garage. If it were to be retail residential units, they would be walk-up units. They would have access onto River Road, kind of a studio unit with a lofted bedroom towards the back, so they wouldn't be sleeping right on the street. So this was a great project that we negotiated with West Lafayette. APC is in full support of this project, and there are some pretty standard conditions for PDs. Of course, with the FAA determination, since it's in the area of the Purdue Airport. So we are recommending conditional approval of this PD. I think I have a couple. There's another elevation for you to look at, so you can see how the elevation changes between River and Salisbury there with that lower level. And that's looking at it from Salisbury. And then some nice images of how it's going to be lit up at night. So happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Amanda. Petitioner.
Ryan Munnin with RTS Law here on behalf of Tomish Developers LLC. This is another local student housing developer, so we're excited about that. As Amanda mentioned, there are currently 2 existing buildings. Those existing buildings have 60 beds. So with our max of 482, we're looking at a net increase of 422 beds for West Lafayette. Our narrative also includes a provision that our parking ratio be at least 47%. So the 205 parking spaces Amanda mentioned, I believe, is a typo in the narrative. It's actually 227 parking spaces. If the commercial option is exercised, up to 4 of those parking spaces would be dedicated to the retail units. In addition, if the commercial option is exercised, our bed count would go from 482 to 473. The project features green spaces and open spaces on all sides of the building. The current parking lot on Salisbury is not particularly attractive. So the streetscapes on the east and west sides of the project will be significant improvements from what is currently there. The project is a continuation of the improvements along this very prominent section of River Road, which started at the corner of State Street and River Road, and then most recently at the other end at Williams and River Road with the Approach project. We have discussed buying plantings for this project from the West Lafayette City Nursery. And finally, we have notified current tenants about this project per the West Lafayette ordinance and assured them that all existing leases will be honored and no leases will be terminated early. So we appreciate staff's work on another successful plan development. We concur with staff's report and recommendation. We would request your recommendation of approval. Be happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this? Anyone in opposition? Questions or comments from the board?
I just had one thing. Amanda, do you agree with the 205 to 227 disparity in the parking?
I do, yes.
Okay, so for the record, it'll go to 227 in the report. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have 17 votes recommending approval.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Next case, Jerry.
I move to hear and vote on Z3005 Sterling 27 LLC 8 R1B with commitment.
Second.
Ryan.
Thank you. The site in question is a site approximately 66 acres here on the west side of the county. Roughly the location here is the former Elks Country Club. Here's when you back up, and you can see the zoning situation here. Obviously, the Indian Creek floodplain is the main event and the main point of our discussion in our report as well. But the zoning, of course, is varied, highly residential, mixed zones. We have some planned development zones to the north that are at a higher density. And then we have a lot of R1, of course, the Tippecanoe development immediately to the west. And then across the floodplain to the south and east. Of course, we have our commercial node there with Meyer and Menards and other commercial sites, and then more intense zoning further south down the Klondike corridor. Existing conditions. This is a proposed non-binding site plan that was offered by the petitioner. Their proposal, at least at the time of the writing of the report, shows a 309 single-family lot project. Petitioner is also proposing a commitment with this rezone that simply states that lots abutting the Capilano Highlands subdivision, which is, again, abutting to the west, shall be developed to the R1 standards, which is the 10,000 square foot lots and all the other trappings of the R1 zone. Let's see, golf course itself goes back a ways, 1939 as far as we can tell, probably even earlier. Capilano itself kind of broke ground in the mid-60s and finally wrapped up in the 1990s. Stonehenge development to the north, which its final phase, well, there's multiple phases going on, both planned development and on the by right side that are kind of close to this site. Let's see. Again, this non-binding site plan does show 2 access points that do go through the floodplain to reach their access to public roads. There was an error, well, not at the time we wrote the report, but we do state in our report that we have not received any commitments from water or sewer. Those were just delivered to us just before the meeting. So we do have statements from both water and sewer that they will be able to serve. So that is corrected. And of course, we mentioned flooding through the floodplain area. Capilano, of course, has had a lot of history in its many decades, particularly at its single access point, where there have been events where the entrance has been submerged. And so that is really at the heart of our comments, which I'm not going to read you verbatim. They're in here, but our main thrust with this is that where we essentially are building is that that we essentially make a recommendation that PD zoning might be a better way to go with this due to the environmental sensitivity of the area. PD zoning's intent does recognize environmental sorts of issues as a reason to do a PD, and that seems to be a potential reasonable pathway to address some of these issues. And so the current pathway they're doing is another way to do it as well with commitments, but we feel that as staff that the plan development zone might be a better way to go to try to achieve what they're looking for. The comp plan itself does recommend the use that they're proposing, so we actually don't really object to the proposed use. Single-family zoning in this area, the comp plan that for the most recently adopted Wabash Tippecanoe Township's plan said low-density residential should be permitted, and it includes all the zones that they're interested in. Well, the particular one they're going for, but R1 as well, given those standards. So it really comes down to the issues of the floodplain and the access through it to get to the site, not necessarily the use itself. So, so for those reasons, we are recommending denial of both the rezone and the commitment, because the commitment doesn't really address the primary issue of the floodplain, traversing access. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Ryan. Petitioner or the representative?
Ryan Munn with RTS Law here on behalf of the petitioner and current owner Sterling 27 LLC. By way of some background, Sterling 27 is owned by the Day family. In 2013, the Elks was sold to our client as part of a sale. There was a covenant requiring that the property be used as a golf course until December of 2020. Thereafter, it could be redeveloped. The Day family honored that covenant in full and continued to operate the golf course for almost 5 years beyond what was required of this covenant. Since acquiring the golf course, the Day family has invested millions of dollars to revitalize and operate the club. Despite these investments, the club has operated at a loss for the 11-year run with the Day family. These financial problems are not unique to this golf course. Golf courses in general are not particularly profitable ventures. Without local membership and community participation, continued operation is not financially viable. Since August of '24, this property has been actively marketed for sale and redevelopment. The property is currently zoned A, but to help facilitate a sale and redevelopment, we're asking that it be rezoned to R1B. Development by the current owners or a sale to a third party are both options that are still on the table. Our client would like to see homes built here, but if this rezone is not approved, reopening the golf course is not an option. So we would then be looking at doing something by right in the ag zone, which would include a wide variety of activities. As APC staff mentioned, we've submitted a commitment for R1 lots along Capilano. The remainder of the property would be developed to at least R1B standards. As you know, we can exceed those standards. The current conceptual layout contemplates a combination of R1, R1A, and R1B lots. An R1B rezone gives us flexibility when designing and developing this subdivision. We've had several new builders enter our market recently, and the R1B zone is particularly attractive to these out-of-town and national-scale builders due to that flexibility. Staff mentions going through a plan development process, but if we go through the PD, what we would likely end up with for an R1 or a residential use is a bunch of cookie cutter houses, and it would likely result in a lot higher density. So while that might be good for us, it's not necessarily good for the neighbors. Additional feedback from staff generally mirrored what we've heard from neighbors, concerns about drainage, desire for open space buffers, and low density transition from Capilano to the development on this site, as well as traffic concerns. With respect to the desire for buffering, we believe that's accomplished by our commitment for R1 lots along Capilano. As for traffic and drainage, both of those items are addressed at the next stage of the process, which is the subdivision. And again, staying on drainage, our client has engaged multiple engineers and surveyors to look at the drainage for this property, including T-Bird locally. On August 22nd, our team held a Teams meeting with these engineers and APC staff to review drainage and discuss approaches to addressing it. Again, on September 2nd, we held another Teams meeting with the County Surveyor's Office to review drainage as well. We also held a neighborhood meeting at the Wellness Center in West Lafayette on November 5th. And at that meeting, our team shared a drainage study. During that meeting, we also ran some drainage simulations for the neighbors. The entire point of this work is to show that we're not increasing flow onto neighboring property by developing the golf course. Tim Balanciefer with T-Birds here this evening, and he can answer any other drainage questions you have in more detail, but it is something that is top of mind for the owners and this project team. As we work through the various county and FEMA approvals for drainage that will come after rezoning, we will have to show that we are not adversely impacting adjacent properties. We understand Capilano has had drainage issues and emergencies in the past, and we will not be making their situation worse. In fact, as part of our project, we have offered to include an emergency access point, which you can see on the conceptual layout that's on the screen, between lots 191 and 192 to the west. That is purely conceptual. It could go anywhere along that boundary with Capilano, but that is something that the owner is willing to make available. So they would have a secondary access point in the event of another flooding issue where there's an emergency and they're trapped with no way out. With respect to drainage as well, if the rezone is approved, but we are not able to prove that we are not causing Capilano and neighbors additional drainage problems, we will not be able to build a house on the property. So we will be having it rezoned to R1B, but without a subdivision. What you see on the screen doesn't happen. An ancillary benefit to that for the neighbors would be if we're rezoned to R1B, don't address the drainage to the drainage board's liking and therefore can't do the subdivision. We're now locked into R1B and the ag zone goes away, so therefore the list of activities that are a lot worse than houses that we could do by right now would not be an option anymore. So with that, we would request your recommendation of approval. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone opposed to the petition? Just please come up, state your name and address for the record, and there's a sign-up sheet on the desk you can sign after you speak.
Ken Buchanan, 3918 North, 300 West. I live beside the golf course. A number of my neighbors are here. Hopefully some of the retired police officers, speaking of crime and everything and all that might come from there. But as you gentlemen well know, we never had a wetlands in West Lafayette until we built the Hilton. They broke drain tiles over there. The only water that we had was 3 ducks on the left side of the 4th fairway of the North golf course. When the drainage changed out of Hadley Lake, I now have 2 neighbors that have homes in floodplain that they can't do anything with. They can't sell them. They can't get anything and all there. Traffic on 300 West is absolutely ridiculous. Come to my house some afternoon, in the middle of the afternoon, traffic is backed up. You cannot get out of the Meyer and Menards parking lot. These guys want to do a traffic survey? Come out, take pictures. You cannot get out of there. What about our property values that are out there? Some of our families have owned property in that area for 75 years. And now they're wanting to run a roadway through the floodplain coming up right beside my driveway. This isn't going to work. 300 West, like I say, as I mentioned earlier, try getting out of the Meyer Menards parking lot. With all due respect to the committee, you have approved 72 lots near Hadley Lake. All that traffic is going to come down 300 West. It's rumored that you've approved 118 lots north of Stonehenge. All that traffic is going to come right down my road. I won't be able to get out of my driveway in order to go wherever I want to go with that going on. And I have other neighbors that I'm hoping will come up and speak. You know about the Cuppy McClure. Everything drains north out of like where Applebee's is now. It goes north into Hadley Lake. It comes down south. So, I implore you guys not to rubber stamp this and go from there going like, well, let's wait on FEMA. We've spoken to FEMA. We've spoken to other agencies that are against this project. I implore you to stay with us. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Kent. If you'd sign in over there, please. Next, thank you.
My name's Jerry Scott. I live at 3601 US Highway 52 West, West Lafayette, which is directly across the street from the Elks Golf Course. I've lived there since 2004, where flooding has not only been an issue, but it's been Little Indian Creek overflows into my property. There is a problem with the retention pond that separates Capilano and the golf course, which is no one cleans the deadfall out of the pond. There is a separation ditch between my house and the neighbor's house, and that ditch subsequently gets plugged up with the deadfall that comes from Capilano. No one seems to want to address the cleanup of that, but it's also one of the causes of the two retention ponds, because when the golf course floods, we flood. Now, it's been a minute since we've had a flood in there, but we had an ice breakup 2 years ago that I had tons of ice in my front yard because none of this water had any place to go. The bridge on, is it 300, just west of me, where the train trestle is, doesn't accommodate any water coming through Little Indian Creek. It backs up there, and then all those fields to the east of me start backing up, and you can just see the floodwaters. I was told when I bought the place in 2004, I was in the flood zone. It was not yet in the floodplain. That was changed on me in 2007, where I was told by FEMA, APC, that I could not develop my property. I couldn't even put a barn on it because I'm in the flood zone. And so I don't know how creating more wetland by taking the golf course out of the project, because where's all that water going to go? Are they going to guarantee that that water doesn't come off the golf course like it always has and come into our properties? Because unless they can guarantee it, I don't want anything to do with this. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd sign in. Next, please.
Hi. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Stacy Reichard, and I live at 3910 North, 300 West for over 25 years. We're not opposed to change, growth, or progress. We know it's inevitable, but it's important in the midst of enormous growth in this area to be aware of the flooding. Our property meets up to the Elks Golf Course, and much of it is on the floodplain. We are right across from where they're not going to build anything. We're the property that has the most floodplain in it. Over the years, I can remember several floods. One in particular covered 300 at Menards. The five-way stop at Taft and Morehouse was also underwater. I remember clearly because my daughter couldn't get home from a play date. There are some potentially undocumented areas of water concern. 3916 is my neighbor who sits directly behind my house. Her property also borders the Elks. The woods owned by her that sits directly behind her house has a stream that runs through it. That stream flows out on both sides of her woods. The golf course side comes out and down the hill towards our home. Over the years, the golf course has built a dam to try and help golfers to be able to walk in that area when they golf. The key word is try. It's still really wet. On the other side of the stream is my other neighbor, 3922 North 300 West. The golf course in front of his property is very, very wet. I've walked it over the years several times. It may not be documented, but it's very wet, and in the plan, there's 6 houses to be right in front of his property, and it's wet when it barely rains. I'm aware that FEMA requires a detailed study to be done in the A1 areas on the property before anything can be built on them. It's important to look at the other areas that may or may not be included in the floodplain. Imagine what 300 homes with impervious ground will add. Maybe the builders can have certain restrictions, such as permeable sidewalks, houses on bigger lots with trees and rain gardens. This has been a dry year, and today I walked by my neighbor's woods that I spoke about, and with just one day of rain with a really dry year, there was still water puddling. Thank you for listening to my concerns. I hope you take them into account for the greater good.
Very good. Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Kyle Cray. I live at 4600 Haven Court in West Lafayette. That's just slightly to the north on 300 North or Taft Road, depending on how you want to name that road. But I also grew up in the Capilano subdivision as well. My parents still live in the Capilano subdivision to this day. They're actually here in attendance and awfully worried about this proposed rezoning and development as well. Over the 37 years that I have been alive, I have seen essentially every flood that has locked in the Capilano subdivision. Since the past 10 years living on the north side of Taft Road, I have watched the five-way stop at Taft and Morehouse be flooded. I have watched the Indian Creek flood over in the area in which the ingress and egress to 300 North is in that area. At no point do I see or hear anything in this rezoning that is not essentially putting the cart before the horse? And by that, I mean, they say, well, we have ideas, we have studies, but there is no specific plan in place at this point as to how this major issue of flooding, a public safety issue that could not only potentially trap approximately 309 families in this development, but also the Capilano subdivision as well. A proposal to find some way or some property owner willing to allow an emergency route from Capilano subdivision into this subdivision doesn't really make sense when both of the ingress and egress points of this subdivision that's being requested, or at least the rezoning, to proceed with a subdivision of this density in an R1B density does not help when both of the other exits in this area are both closed as well. In 2004, the flooding in Capilano was so bad that the Tippecanoe County Emergency Management Agency had to come out and actually build an emergency gravel road into and out of Capilano so that medical emergencies and other individuals could have entry and exit to that subdivision. At this point, we are taking what is absolutely permeable ground at 66 acres, and regardless of permeable sidewalks, regardless of anything else, you are going to have roofs, pavement, driveways, et cetera. At no point can I see that this should be rezoned to this level of housing density, especially given the low housing density status at this point of the current combined plan for this township. The other obvious problem that has been raised is traffic. On Taft Road, when I go to leave my subdivision, I have a mostly obstructed view to the left, which would be to the west, facing this direction of this subdivision, and a blind corner that comes around on Taft when I look to the east. Putting approximately 300 homes in this area with 309 families of potentially 1.5 to 2 car average adds up to approximately 2,400 added additional vehicular travels per day on all of the roads surrounding this area. To believe that they will all funnel out to US 52 when you have exits to both the south onto 52 and onto 300 North, it's going to cause backed up congestion. Taft Road is a 2-lane road with a ditch on either side, direct driveways entering and exiting onto that road, blind corners on it because it's an old and it's a small road. It is not made to, and I've not heard any plan to address the issues that would cause with traffic there or the excess capacity and problems it would place on the school district in this area for Klondike Elementary and middle school in that area as well. As somebody that's been in a serious car crash trying to get into and out of US 52, in which my car was split in half when there was even less travel on the US 52, and we were not adding approximately 300 different homes with potentially 2 cars apiece. It's a major concern, not only for safety from flooding, safety for environment, safety for the travel of the individuals around there, and the current recommendation on the commitment is essentially cosmetic. It does nothing to actually address the core concerns that should be addressed before rezoning occurs, not just a we will get to it and we'll try to think about it and fix it later. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name's Lisa Bolin. I'm one of the residents in Capilano. We've lived there since 1999. I live at 3619 Capilano Drive. I'm one of the homes that does back up right to the golf course. And given the time that we've lived in the neighborhood, our family is one of those families that's been on the front lines of seeing the flooding in the neighborhood. I won't go into a lot about the flooding. It's been well spoken about by many people. It's a serious concern for many of our neighbors. Many of us attended a meeting a few days ago with the Day family and their attorney and representatives. There were a lot of concerns still that there weren't adequate methods to address the flooding. There was insufficient evidence. Things seemed to be glossed over quite a bit. In addition to the flooding, which is a very real issue, the idea of an access road, same thing that I was going to bring up. Coming into Capilano, we would be entering 2 subdivisions right next to each other, where the main entrance of the subdivision is right through the floodplain, which is not a good idea in either case. But one other concern I wanted to mention that was slightly touched upon, The traffic patterns in that area are not just an inconvenience. It's not just a matter of having to wait longer to get out of your driveway. They're a real safety hazard. My son is one of the victims of an accident at that intersection, the closest intersection to where this neighborhood would be proposed, right there at Klondike Road and 231-52. We've had multiple accidents over the years at that intersection. It's already a very dangerous intersection, increasing by 300-plus homes. Trying to flood out right into that same area within that same block is going to create even more of a safety hazard. We have high speeds along that area because of the 231 bypass and the intersection, so we have a lot of safety issues already in that area. Putting high-density housing in there, whether you're coming out onto Klondike Road or whether you're coming out straight onto 231 is just plain dangerous in terms of the number of homes being proposed. There was also a mention of the issue with schooling at Klondike Elementary. They've just done a rebuild of the elementary school. In that rebuild, they already have 932 students enrolled. Part of the reason for rebuilding was to bring students from portable classrooms where students had to be in trailers because there wasn't enough room in the building, to be able to bring those students into the building and give them an actual classroom. If we bring 300 more families into that neighborhood, we're putting ourselves right back into that situation where we're not considering the density of the families right in that area and what can be adequately addressed in terms of their educational needs. We also have other subdivisions in Stonehenge and right behind there that are going in that are increasing that population of families and children. So I think that's one of many concerns still to be considered. And I respectfully request that we take a really serious look both at the traffic and the flooding and just the oversaturation in that particular area. Thank you for your time.
Very good, thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Joel Rasmus, 3804 West Capilano. I won't repeat many of the things that I agree with that my neighbors have said, but I did want to add that since the time that this property has gone up for sale, we have seen home values in Capilano go down in excess of 15%. And the days on market for any of the houses that have come on the market during this period have dramatically increased. Most of the lots in Capilano are half an acre or larger. Even R1, butting those up, are decreasing the property values by what the people in the neighborhood now have to look out their back window. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is John Umbeck. I live at 3713 Capilano Drive. That's at the tee box to the 12th par 5 hole, for those of you that play golf. I just retired from Purdue, 50 years. I've been teaching economics at Purdue. Finally thought it was time to retire and enjoy my home on the golf course, and it looks like that might not be happening. But first of all, I agree with everything that's been said. We've had a number of water problems at our own house, but I'm going to take a slightly different approach, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. I know interesting economics is kind of a contradiction in terms, like Senate Intelligence Committee, but I'll try to keep it short. Probably 50% of an economics course deals with what we call alternatives. When you make decisions, you have to consider the alternatives. What I heard tonight is that Lafayette or the county or some authority recommends having more single-family housing, and that's fine. They're proposing 310 or 309 houses on that parcel, which personally I think is crazy, but I obviously have a self-interest in this. My point is this, it's very simple. What you have in that golf course is an unusual piece of property remaining with easy access to Purdue, to Lafayette, to West Lafayette. We have rolling hills, we have 2 streams, we have probably over 100 trees, many of them hundreds of years old, some of them on my property and right on the border, in fact, and we will probably lose those with any type of construction. it seems like there's a better way to use that parcel. If the county really thinks we need more single-family housing, within a mile or two of my home, there is farmland. It's already leveled. It won't need to be unleveled or re-leveled with a lot of earth-moving equipment. It's flat. Build your houses there. But somehow we should preserve the natural beauty of this property, formerly the Elks Golf Course. I don't know what to recommend. I see people with plans, and I would just encourage you to not rush into this rezoning issue, but to, and I know this is, you do the planning after you make the zoning decision, but I'm encouraging you to do something a little different this time. Take your time with this rezoning question. One last comment. I got a soils map from the soils people here in area planning, the work at Purdue Extension. And I don't think you can't see it, but I'll hold it up and see. There's a square marked for the Elks Golf Course. You'll see that most of it is dark.
Sir, can you pass that so you can stay at the microphone, please?
Thank you.
In fact, you can keep that if you want. I was told you have access to it, but you can keep that. Here's the point. That dark gray area is not appropriate for single-family housing. That's what it says. It says the conditions of the soil will allow expansion and shifting, making it very difficult to maintain a house with no basement and a single story. Okay, so they're going to have some additional costs besides just the sewage and the water drainage and the traffic and all the things that I agree with, by the way.
1 minute left.
Oh, I'm done. I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, John. If you'd sign in at the desk, John, please. Anyone else wishing to speak? Very good.
I'm Nancy. I'm back, the other half. And 3713 Capilano Drive, and I agree with everything that's been said so far. But a couple things that just to remind you that on the corner of Klondike there is a cemetery. So we're talking about traffic and how other ideas that can help manage that huge problem. So a school on one corner, a cemetery lot, and granted it's old, I don't know what can be done about that. And then there's a business on the other corner. And I don't know how you get around a traffic problem that's going to be created on that corner. The other thing, we talked about floodplains, but there's something else that goes on in Capilano or on the golf course that hasn't been addressed, and I think it's called ponding. I don't know, but Tom Day would certainly know about it because from end of March to the first week in June, he has to rope off that section because our property that we back up to the golf course, our property and the one next to us, it floods every spring. He has to rope it off so that golf carts and utility vehicles don't get stuck there. We have ducks, frogs, but it happens every single year. And I know there's one other place, and I don't golf, so I don't know where that one is, but it was so bad a few years ago that our neighbor, their septic tank flooded, and they couldn't flush their toilets. And so it's not just the floodplains. There's this ponding concept too. And I have pictures on my phone if you want to see it. And it even happened in December this last year. So there's that to deal with. But taking down all these trees, we've talked about the flooding issue. Those trees absorb an awful lot of water. And there are probably 100 or more trees on this property. And so that's taking those out, and they're going to, is going to contribute to that. And we're talking trees that are over 100 feet tall, some of the biggest in Greater Lafayette. So that's all I had to add.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I'll be quick.
Okay.
I think Sylvia Nicholson, 3385 Langford Way. My husband and I just moved here last year. Love the community. Everyone's so friendly and nice. It's great. But I guess my concern is that with the 100 new lots in Stonehenge, and there's more on 450 North, maybe 100 new homes, and then 500 Estridge homes, a lot of traffic. People have talked about that. I'm worried about the home values and the days on the market. So right now, Indiana averages 40 days on the market. Tippecanoe County is at 60. So a little bit of a concern. Adding another 1,000 houses to that market just might be a little bit high density, no pun intended. That's it. I just wanted to make everyone aware of the days on the market.
Very good, thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Riggs. I live at 2051 East 430 South. I live in South Tippecanoe County. I'm here to basically address part of the reasoning and the points raised in the Area Plan Commission report. Specifically, and it's on page 40 of the agenda, the third sentence in the request made proposed use and location. The sentence says, petitioner is proposing a commitment, which is in bold and underlined, that states that any lot abutting Capilano Highlands SD shall be developed to R1 standards. The staff comments that this commitment is similar to other commitments in the county when higher density residential is proposed adjacent to lower density single family housing. I was actually here last month on behalf of a completely different neighborhood south of town where 103 houses were put into 32 acres. And so I'm now doing a systemic review. The county commissioners have approved that. We're doing a systemic review of how the Area Plan Commission actually applies policy. So if you look to the next page to the staff comments, we have some concerns, and I just want some clarity because according under staff comments, the second paragraph says staff has two primary concerns about the development of this site, and both deal with subdivision access to the floodplain. And in that paragraph, they say firstly and secondly, and they address it. But the staff report is not exactly clear, because if you go to the next lengthy paragraph, it says staff recognizes the sensitivity of the golf course. And they basically talk in zoning terms about the fact that the Area Plan Commission can provide more protection for the neighbors. So I'm not talking about traffic, I'm not talking about flooding, I'm talking about the preservation of the property values. There were, at least when I counted online, there were 37 different comments that were raised by neighboring property owners, and 35 of the 37 said that the introduction of high-density housing immediately adjacent to Capilano and in this area would reduce property values. And on the third sentence of this paragraph, the Area Plan Commission says that the best way to develop a product that addresses the neighborhoods, that's Capilano and surrounding people who have discussed here, and the county's concerns, while potentially allowing the density that developer would prefer, is by going through the planned development process. Well, what is that? Having gone to the Area Plan Commission 9 times in the last 5 or 6 weeks, what they say is the process of the planned development would provide the most protection. That's their term, as it would allow the county to require additional buffering, setbacks, green space, and other development standards that enable the development to fit more cohesively within the existing neighborhood. So in essence, our concern, my concern here, is that the staff recommendation is that they want to deny the commitment. The developer has made a commitment here that any lots adjacent to Capilano would be developed to R1 standards, or even perhaps, as their counsel suggests, would exceed that. So it's unclear to me why the Area Plan Commission would want to say to deny that request, deny that commitment, because in the last sentence of their report, they say they're not convinced the proposed commitment is necessary because it does not address the concerns above. Well, it's not talking about the floodplain concerns. It's talking about the development concerns necessary to help preserve the property values. That's the additional buffering. That's the setbacks. That's the green space. There are development standards. If you step back and not just look at this one, or the one that I was here representing 83 people last week talking about, it's whether there's a uniform application of the development standards by this body and then accepted by the county commissioners, the only way that this makes sense is that in the last sentence, that the proposed commitment is not best.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Is not best. And so if the Area Plan Commission is suggesting that it's better to have more protection, then the commitment denial makes sense. Otherwise, it's not clear why the commission would want to keep a developer from wanting to help protect property values regardless of any other traffic, flooding, or issues. So because this was, the report as I read it is not clear and it does not convincingly establish that the Area Plan Commission wants to have more control of the process above and beyond the commitment would be my reservation to the recommendation. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else? This is your only time to speak, and we're going to move on. Okay, rebuttal by the petitioner.
This will probably be the first time I've ever said this, and never will say it again, but I think I agree with Mr. Riggs on it didn't make sense why APC staff recommended denial of the commitment because it does protect Capilano. It was said that we're getting the cart before the horse, but we're literally going through the process prescribed by the county. The rezone is first. Tonight we're voting on whether the use is appropriate. Then we go to the subdivision process, which addresses the drainage and the traffic. And we've talked about this before. We talked about this last month with the project on the south side. It is the process. If we cannot address the drainage problem, there will be no subdivision. That is the process. We trust the process. Same with traffic. Traffic studies would be part of the subdivision process. We trust the process. That is our process. Regarding the school corporation is also a checkpoint agency for the subdivision process. We have had communications with the school corporation and have been informed of no concerns regarding overcrowding. And as was mentioned, the school just built a massive middle school. The elementary school has been renovated and added to, so that is not a concern. But again, what we've heard tonight is we're concerned about drainage. We're not ignoring drainage. We've come out front and center and said we agree it is an issue. There are county approvals, there are FEMA approvals that are required. If we can't get those approvals, this project will not move forward. We're following the process. We trust the process. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Ryan. Questions or comments from the board?
I got a comment just real quick, more than a question. It was discussed on several occasions about the flooding to the entrance to Capilano. I guess my question, since it's been flooding since 2002, why that has not been abated and what is the process for that abatement, and why just hasn't it been done? And now all of a sudden it's an issue. 20-some years to live with the problem's a pretty long time. So that's just more of a statement than a question. Thank you.
Tom.
I have a question. I think it's probably more APC than anything. So as the two driveways that are being proposed are being discussed, because they're both currently in floodplain, FEMA will have to sign off on those being removed, meaning they'll have to be removed from the floodplain in order for those driveways to even be constructed, correct? So they will have to be elevated or removed through a LOMAR process, is that correct?
Well, roads can be in floodplains.
No, I'm talking about the entrance to.
So the entrances themselves?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe you're correct, yeah.
I see Mr. Valency first stood up, maybe.
You verify that, Tim?
I mean, what we wouldn't want to happen would be two entrances being constructed that are in the floodplain.
Question about the entrances.
Good evening, Tim Valency for T-Bird Design, 105 North 10th Street. I'll disagree with the entrances both being in the floodplain. US 52 entrance is above the floodplain. There's a peninsula on 52 that makes that the current connection for the golf course or the former golf course is connected to, and that can be proved by a certificate, floodplain certificate. And so that would allow the entrance to be elevated throughout the subdivision to create a connection that's out of the floodplain. That's why there was a entrance put in to connect Capilano so that they would have an exit to get out. Now, the entrance onto 300 would be in the floodplain, but the primary, you would always have one entrance that would be outside of the floodplain. And it's not floodway that we're talking about, this is floodplain. And floodplain is a local, so the drainage board is really, and the county surveyor is the one who kind of controls that. FEMA gets involved when we start talking about putting houses in floodplain and getting those certified out. So that's where some of these houses, pads, are planned to be in the floodplain, the existing floodplain, but once that gets filled, it can be certified out. Prior to 2005, 2006, it was common in Tippecanoe County to fill in the floodplain. I mean, we did one in 2003. It's not an issue. In fact, I think it's one of the few counties that makes it a little tougher to fill in the state of Indiana for floodplains.
And obviously, this area is in the impact area, and so it has to release.
Indian Creek impact area, that's correct.
And so it'll have to release at a lower rate.
Correct. So there'll be, the detention requirements for the site itself is higher than pretty much anywhere in the county.
And I know that this is not a non-binding site plan, but this plan accounts for excessive storage.
Yes, it does, yes.
May I address the council in my rebuttal?
Tom, are you done?
I am done.
Tim, before you leave, Mr. Balancevor, could I ask one point of clarification, follow-up? In your expertise here, I missed, you said the peninsula coming off of 52 for an entrance is already raised enough to...
Correct. The bridge across Indian Creek is above the floodplain. So it is elevated. In fact, our office looked at this. We had an independent engineering firm look at this, and we had the county's consultant look at this. And the bridge and so as you go west on 52, it does go below the floodplain. So 52 is actually below the floodplain as you go west of the entrance that's shown on there. But the entrance itself that it is shown here would be, the 52 is above the floodplain at that location. Yes. And again, we can prove that.
So more likely, if there is an issue, it would be the entrance off of 300.
Correct. And again, you're allowed to have the secondary entrance. You just got to have the one for fire and emergency access that is above the floodplain. If we can't get that out of the floodplain, it's over with. Yeah. So we wouldn't have gone this far if we weren't pretty sure this was going to happen as far as being out of the floodplain. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for either you or Ryan. You had mentioned that the PD process would potentially lead to more cookie cutter houses. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on why that is and if that's the only concern that you have with going to PD.
Right, so with the plan development process, we basically take standards that are set forth in the zoning ordinance and we set them aside and negotiate all new standards, including architectural standards. So as part of the plan development, we would have to either negotiate a set of standards or have a set of plans that could be approved, and that's not going to be infinite. It's going to be a few sets of plans, a set of architectural standards, and every house that's built in a project that's subject to a PD is going to have to comply with that. So you're going to result in a bunch of houses that look the same. So if you look at the residential projects or single-family residential projects in Tippecanoe County that are PDs, you don't have a lot of variety. So you're not going to have a custom builder come in and build a one-of-a-kind kind of house in a PD for this kind of project.
Other comments or questions from the board? Question for the staff. If the R1B is approved, and this is a non-binding plan, would it be fair to say the next plan, some of the things would be similar, such as the entrances, and obviously the commitment would still be there, but they could redesign the inner streets and the drainage and all that stuff. But the things that are pretty much set in stone would be the two entrances, because that's the only place they could be, and the commitment would carry forward.
Well, yeah, the commitment to the R1 standard would carry forward. The location of the entrances would not be connected with the zone, so that would come through the subdivision process. So if what Mr. Balanceford said was correct, that those are the only places they could go, then he's probably right. But the zoning wouldn't control that, the entrances, so those could fluctuate. The street grid that they're proposing could change, the location of the ponds, all of that is subject to, as they described, the subdivision approval process, drainage board, all the subsequent processes. So that answer your question?
It does. Thank you, Ryan. Any other comments, questions from the board? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot. Thank you, Todd. First is a commitment, and typically, whether you're for the zoning or against, we still would like we're going to vote on the commitment. We'd like the commitment approved, so in case it is, this follows forward. So I'd recommend approval of that, and then the zoning, you can vote however you see fit. At least somebody's paying attention. Yes, very good. I think he can set up here.
I'll second that.
It's too late.
Okay, we have, I'm missing somebody?
Larry's out of the room.
Larry's out of the room. Yes, so you only have 16 votes, so Larry is out of the room.
Thank you very much.
In that particular
Yeah, so we have 15 recommending favor of the commitment, 1 against.
Very good. Okay, now we will vote on the rezoning request with the commitment attached to it. And I might comment, as Ryan is collecting the votes, I don't know how the vote will go, but this may be a recommendation to the county commissioners that they'll hear this case again and finally vote on the official rezone. And also, when we're done voting, if some of you may want to leave, we have more on the agenda to do, so if you'd wait till you get outside to start your conversations, it'll help us move on a little more quickly.
We have 10 votes recommending approval and 6 against.
So that will go to the county commissioners at their first meeting on December the 1st. December
right.
1st at 10 a.m. in this room. Thank you very much. Staff, is the next case ready to go?
Yes, the next case is ready.
Okay, very good. Jerry?
Okay. I'm gonna wait till.
No, go ahead. Turn your mic on. Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
I move to hear and vote on Z 3007 Martha E. Trinidad, C R2U2 NBU.
Second.
Evening, everybody. Nathan McBurnett, APC staff. A little palate cleanser of a case for you here. We're on the south side of the near downtown area in Lafayette on 4th Street. This is an area that's zoned R2U. Most of the area has been zoned that way since 1999, when the Ellsworth-Romig Historic Neighborhood Plan was put in place. This specific property has been in commercial use since the early 1900s. It's actually been in commercial use for over 100 years, which is pretty interesting. It's been functioning as a bar since the early 1950s. So it's very rare in our community to see a use that's lasted for so long, obviously under different ownership, but for like 75 years, this site has been a bar, which is very rare. Anyway, it was originally in 1965 with the Unified Zoning Ordinance Zone GB, so it was conforming at that point, but when it was subsequently rezoned to residential, it became legally non-conforming. So it's currently legally non-conforming. The request is not only to make it conforming, but also to build on to the south side of the facility to include a dance area. It's a popular bar. The surrounding area is primarily residential. It's mostly single-family residential. I think there's some two-family as well. There's the Corridor Place planned development just to the south along what was once the Norfolk Southern Railroad. There are single-family homes going in there. The most recent land use study of this area was the 1999 Ellsworth-Romig Neighborhood Plan. It called for medium-density, single-family homes in this area. We're seeing that developed with the Corridor Place plan development, and this site, I mean, it's been commercial for, as I said, the better part of 100 years. It's been a long-standing use that's very popular in the community. It's complementary to the surrounding uses, and for that reason, staff is recommending approval of the rezone in spite of it not fitting into the 1999 neighborhood plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Nathan. Petitioner or their representative, please. Come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Cristina Contreras. I'm here helping my mom with her English. She's the owner of Martha Local Bar on 4th Street, address 522 South 4th Street. It was a local before, now she owns it for about 3 years. She just wanted to rezone for a commercial just to add on for people to be more comfortable right now. We do like karaoke nights, and it goes a lot of Hispanics, and they try to dance, but it's so small. She's just trying to add, so they have more area to either put tables and dancing, so more comfortable for everybody.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We may have some questions for you. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Questions from the board?
If you haven't been there, they have great food.
Good dancing, too.
Anyone else? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot, please.
I hope this is going to go through. I hit boys first. I just scratched it out.
Okay. Just tell Ryan when he picks it up.
No.
I wrote void when you said it wasn't ready, and then so it is, okay. Okay. Yeah, that could have been ugly. I'll go ahead and tie it.
You don't want to have a recount. Recount.
We have a unanimous ballot for approval. That'll carry on to Lafayette City Council.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. Next, Jerry.
I move to hear and vote on Z 3009IU Health, Arnett, Inc., R3 to MR.
Second.
John.
Okay. This property came before the commission earlier this year for an R3 rezone. However, tonight we're only looking at a portion of that R3 land shown here surrounded in black. This property is at the corner of 500 North and Yeager Road, newly constructed. Oops.
Hey, John, before you continue, I'm going to recuse myself from this case. If Jackson, one can carry on, please.
Is it safe yet? Okay, so the property here tonight is 21 acres located at the corner of Yeager and County Road 500 North. As I mentioned before, this property received its R3 zoning earlier this year. As part of that larger R3 zone, which included land further to the west and south, you can see the cross-hatched area. That commitment applied to all the land. The rezone that we're hearing on these 21 acres is from R3 to MR. The commitment that's in place, they're asking to repeal the portion of the commitment for this 21 acres. So there's two votes tonight. We have a rezone, and we're undoing a commitment, which is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past about placing a commitment. If there's a commitment placed on the property through a rezone, it can be taken off through the same method. So that's what we're doing tonight. The commitment that's currently on place, it was from May, prohibits multifamily dwellings, shared housing, fraternities, sororities, mobile home parks, rooming and boarding houses, nursing and personal care facility, adult daycare, sheltered workshops, rehab centers, child care centers, residential care facilities. Seeing as the proposed use is a hospital, medical-related use, and the petitioner could talk more about what they're proposing here, getting rid of the commitment here makes sense because that's essentially what they do. We recently completed the Wabash-Tippecanoe Township Plan for this area, and the plan supports residential as well as community-centered, community-oriented uses. So this use lines up perfectly with the Wabash Township Plan. So staff is supporting it. Let me know if you have any questions.
Petitioner? Good evening. Chris Shellman of Gutwein Law, 250 Main Street. Here with me tonight is Art Vasquez, President of IU Arnett Health, Dr. Mansfield, the CEO, and Aaron Hunley, the Director of Large Strategic Projects. Tonight's request is the first step in IU Health's next investment in Tippecanoe County. The proposed rezone would permit a $127 million hospital. The proposed hospital is right-sized and strategically located to provide better, more proximate care to more residents, simultaneously expanding capabilities and services without redundancy. The facility will include an emergency department, 12 inpatient beds with future scalability depending on future need, 4 operating rooms, and additional on-site imaging and lab services. By 2030, they anticipate 211 new full-time jobs. That includes 69 nursing and 29 physician positions. So the hospital will provide West Lafayette and the surrounding county area a full range of service that's complementary to the existing IU Arnett Health ecosystem. As mentioned in the staff report, the area was recently rezoned and the location is located along Yeager, recently expanded and improved in 500. This is just a small section of that R3 area, not sort of segmented and disjointed from the rest of that residential community. So it'll provide, in addition to the nice commercial node, that'll provide a community benefit to those residents, current and future. As mentioned in the staff report, there's sufficient utilities on site. The utility demand will not be more than was already anticipated for the previous development. So everything really is ready for a shovel-ready project,
and IU is committed to moving on that expeditiously. IU Health has been a trusted partner to the community for over 100 years and is committed to working diligently and responsibly with the county and the community on this project to better serve its residents. We'd be happy to answer any specific questions, but request a recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? And if you would, name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Art Vasquez, 5775 Augusta Boulevard, West Lafayette. I'm here on behalf of IU Health to express our strong commitment to the future of healthcare in West Lafayette. First, IU Health has been a part of the community for decades. We're not just a hospital system, we're embedded in the fabric of Tippecanoe County. We support the athletic programs at Harrison, West Lafayette, Lafayette Jeff, and McCutcheon. We donate and sponsor local schools, nonprofits, community groups on issues like infant mortality, workforce development, and child care expansion. We partner with Purdue on medical education, research, and residency programs to keep talent local. And through our $200 million statewide community impact fund, we invest directly in organizations that make life better here in Tippecanoe County. This new hospital is simply the next step in our longstanding promise to grow as the community grows and to meet the needs of families who call this region home. Second, this location strengthens a care ecosystem that already includes more than 450 providers serving the full continuum of care, primary care, urgent care, emergency services, specialty services, level 3 trauma services that we have at our net, and our deep partnership with level 1 trauma at Methodist in Indianapolis. This new site isn't about duplication. It's about making sure access keeps pace with population growth, innovation, and the expectations of people we serve. Third, we take very seriously our responsibility to maintain affordable, predictable health care because this new hospital is integrated into the IU Health Arnett Tax ID. A patient who needs to be transferred for a high level of care remains with the same system. This means one bill and one coordinated clinical team. That's stability. And by sizing this hospital appropriately to meet actual market demand, we avoid unnecessary cost escalation, ensuring families pay only for the care they need. In short, this project strengthens access, enhances quality, and preserves affordability for a rapidly expanding community. It reflects long-term planning, responsible stewardship, and IU Health's deep belief in the future of West Lafayette. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? And if you would, name and address for the record when you get to the mic, please.
My name is Tammy Lindblom. My address is 1635 West, 500 North. I am the farm that is right next to, I'm the R2 that's surrounded this property. It's a little different. I'm not up here saying I'm opposed or for the project. I just haven't had time to really consider what my thoughts would be because I have just recently learned about the change. I was involved with the discussions with the homes, the prior rezoning. But for me, it's just sad. So that's the note that I'm making. I have not had anyone now come and talk to me about my property and what that would look like for my farm in the future. So I don't know if that will change where I am living or the rezone, if anything else will happen with my property in the future. And that's really all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lindblom. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Petitioner, rebuttal?
Briefly, just one note, the development standards with the MR require the maximum buffering along the R2 to the west. So the tentative site plan, I don't know if that was shared with that, but does account for significant buffering behind the facility, and we're happy to reach out and talk and explain as things progress. This is the first step, and we'll continue to have those discussions with the neighbors and work with the county and the community to build a good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shellman.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I may, on the commitment, Chris, 21 acres is the only one that would have the commitment removed. The rest of it would remain.
That is correct.
And to whom is that commitment given other than the APC? Is it given to any other governmental entity, or is it just the APC?
APC, and it's in the county, so the AO would be the building
So it'd be the
commissioner.
county also?
Correct.
And that's just a set of, preceding my question, which is if this is removed, so you get the commitment removed, yet the rezone is voted down ultimately.
Correct.
Then we're left with 21 acres, does not have that protection. Is there a?
That is, I do not believe that is correct. The
Go ahead.
rezone would need to pass, and the approval by this is still a recommendation from the.
Correct.
It must be
I'm talking
rezoned to
about
be removed.
ultimately from the other entity that would approve it.
Correct, but it would be then MR, and you would have a much more limited use.
And so the commitment would have to be removed by recommendation of this body and also ultimately by the
Commissioners,
county
yes.
Commissioners. Okay, and do you agree with that? Thank you. That's all I had.
Anyone on the commission have a question? I have a question for exactly what you were talking about. So we are actually removing a commitment that currently exists.
That is correct. Recommendation of removal.
Okay.
On just the 21 acres.
Right. Thank you. With that, we have two ballots. First one we'll vote on is the commitment.
Removal.
Thank you for the clarification. The first one we're voting on is for the removal of the existing commitment. Termination. Very, very
Terminate.
We have 16 votes recommending approval of the termination.
We'll move on to the next vote.
And we have 16 ballots recommending approval of the rezone.
Thank you. Brian, while you're up,
I move to hear and vote on Z 3010, primary products, ingredients, America, LLC, A and GB to I3.
Second.
All right. So here we are on the south side of Lafayette. The property is outlined in black. It is on the south side of Brady Lane, just west of its intersection with US 52. If you notice, this A-zone land kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. This purple shading is the industrial zoning. This is part of our industrial expansion area that's been planned for decades in our community. The A-zone property was rezoned in 1972 for a mobile home park. That's no longer there. Bits of it you can still see on the aerial. There's some remnants of pad locations. And the GB up front, I think, was part of, it was done a year later after the mobile home park for the sale of mobile homes. That mobile home park has been gone for a very long time. The user to the south, Primient, has some improvements on this A-zone land. So this rezone will accomplish two different things. One would legitimize the portion of Primient's operation on the A-zone land, as well allow for a new user, Primary Product Ingredient America. I think I'll let the attorney explain exactly what they do and what the relationship between the proposed factory and the existing one to the south. But this was kind of an easy one because we've had it in our plan as this is an industrial expansion area for decades, like I said. Sewer, water, everything is here. This is a good infill project, so staff supports it.
Thank you, John. Petitioner or the representative?
That's the next one. Sit back and you'll get to your slide. Okay. Thank you and good evening. My name is Joe Calderon. I'm with Barnes & Thornburg in Indianapolis, 11 South Meridian. I represent Primient, and with me tonight is Travis Montoya, who works for Primient, so he can answer any questions. So very grateful for John's recommendation. This makes sense on a lot of levels, but some of you may not know too much about Primient, and certainly what they're proposing to do to fill in that ground that's currently zoned ag. So as mentioned, this is 47 acres. There's well over 300 acres that are already being used by Primient, if you will. So this kind of completes that gap with A and GB zoning. Sustainia is a name you haven't heard of. I think the mayor's office has heard of it. Is a company that will be kind of a back over the fence neighbor of Primient, and they are going to be making a bioglycol product that will facilitate a more sustainable way of making containers and other types of products that normally are very heavily petroleum based. So the neat thing is that their main product source is through Primient, which uses corn and produces corn syrup. So they are going to have the ability to really work right next door and increase employment. Right now, Primient has 250 employees servicing a lot of local institutions. You can see they pride themselves in terms of their own sustainability efforts and energy efficiency. So this partnership with Sustainia, which would be new, would facilitate construction of a new plant, again, as you can see, to make certain products without being overly reliant on petroleum. And this would be a very significant investment, as you can see on the slide, $400 million, creating up to 190 jobs. And this would be happening really in the near term, 2026 start date, 2028 production date. And this, we think, having a supplier right next to a manufacturer makes all the sense. It doesn't always happen that way, but we think that this is a great project and a completely appropriate zoning to accomplish that project. We're happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this? Anyone opposed? Questions or comments from the board?
Just had a quick question, or I'm sorry, a quick comment, just from the city's perspective, that we are very excited about this project, and we're all in, and we look forward to sustaining it, being a partner.
We have a unanimous ballot recommending approval.
Very good, thank you, Ryan. So we have administrative matters.
Well, we have our planning pointer on deck. If there is interest, in the interest of time, I'll defer to the president and to the board if there's interest in taking this on. Otherwise, we can save it for next time.
How long is it?
5 minutes.
I hear table. Do I hear any other recommendations?
Happy to do so.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're going to table, but thank you very much.
Okay, we'll save it for next time. Thank you.
Okay, but thanks.
Nothing else.
Okay. Anything else on administrative matters? Planning point?
No.
Okay, approval of the December Executive Committee agenda.
I move the following request for subdivisions be placed on the December 3rd, 2025 Area Plan Commission Executive Committee agenda. At petitioner's request, placements thereon being without reference to compliance or non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. MJ Fields, S5306 MJ Fields minor subdivision, minor sketch. 5311 Purdue Technology Center Aerospace Rolls-Royce minor subdivision, minor sketch.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I move the following requests for variance from the Unified Zoning Ordinance are not the request for use variance prohibited from consideration by ordinance and statute. BZA 2215, Chris Diskin, and BZA 2216, Jill and Cody Keys.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Director's report.
This morning, it contained 2 months' worth of longer reading.
Any questions or comments for Ryan? Hearing none. Citizens' comments or grievances? Any citizens' comments? Hearing none, I'll take that last motion, Jerry.
I move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Yes, same to you.